Today's episode, we are bringing an understanding about Saccos. Why? It's because nobody is asking for it. Let's look at the acronym Sacco. What does this acronym stand for? It stands for Savings and Credit Cooperative Societies. Saving and Credit Cooperative Society. Why is it important we understand that acronym? It's because we have different forms of cooperatives. We have farmers-based cooperatives whose purpose is to support the farming activity, and we have others under marketing societies that aggregate produce from farmers for purposes of enjoying economies of scale. So for this particular type of societies we are looking at under the acronym of a Sacco, their principal activity is saving and advancing credit on security of those savings. Why are they called cooperatives? The name cooperative is because of their legal form in terms of registration, incorporation, and general supervision as it is provided for under the Cooperative Societies Act Cap 490. But by their business model or by functions of what they do, these enterprises are financial intermediaries because the nature of services that they offer, that is savings and credit, are financial services in nature, and therefore in some jurisdictions, that is USA, Canada, and many other countries, they are referred to as financial services cooperatives or credit unions. Regulation. Saccos are regulated in three ways in one. All Saccos, regardless of their tier or level, are regulated under the Cooperative Societies Act Cap 490, where this statute provides for registration of Saccos, their promotion and incorporation, and the general supervision of all Saccos. Then there is a second level of supervision that is under the statute of Sacco Societies Act, which came in force in 2008, amended in 2010. And this level or this statute provides prudential supervision on those Saccos that are elevated and provide quasi-banking services called FOSA, front office services. These are the Saccos that offer quasi-banking activities or give you a banking experience. Then there is a third level of supervision or regulation that is provided for in the bylaws. The reason we talk about the bylaws as the third one is that bylaws are provided for under Regulation 1, that is the Cooperative Societies Act. Bylaws, their primary nature or their primary structure is provided for by that statute, and for that reason, for all Saccos, their primary structure of their bylaws is more or less the same. And the bylaws provide specific regulations or specific provisions depending for that particular Sacco. And that's why in law it is required that each and every member of a Sacco should be provided with a copy of the Sacco bylaws for acquaintance and information. With that, these statutes or these two levels of regulations are domiciled in different places for control. That the regulation under the Cooperative Societies Act, which makes these enterprises cooperatives, is domiciled and implemented by the Commissioner of Cooperative Development. So in this case, even though the cooperative function is devolved, at the national level there sits a Commissioner of Cooperative Development, and that office is duplicated in every county. And therefore, all societies, Saccos, regardless of their geographical location in terms of counties, will be under the watch or supervised by a representative in the county that is a Commissioner of Cooperative Development at the county level. And that's why in some cases you hear we'll talk of Saccos regulated by the county cooperative office. That level of regulation applies to all Saccos regardless of their nature, type of function. Then there is a level of regulation that is provided under this Sacco Societies Act, which is domiciled and a regulator acronymed SASRA, where the full name for that acronym is the Sacco Society Regulatory Authority. This regulation or SASRA supervises the prudential requirement, prudential only, the requirement for those Saccos that are performing a second tier or collecting a second type of deposit that you classify as withdrawable deposits, which is that part of business that is accessible by the member at any given time and therefore become demand deposits like what is commonly done with the banks. Then there is the second part of business that is not accessible by the member, is not transferable or withdrawable by the member unless the member is ceasing from membership or withdrawing from the membership. And that form of business is what we refer to as non-withdrawable deposits. And those two give us the two types of Saccos. So we have two types of Saccos. We have non-deposit, non-withdrawable deposit taking Saccos. And we have another level of type of Saccos that on top of the non-withdrawable deposit taking, they also perform another business of withdrawable deposit taking. By acronym, the first type of Saccos are called BOSA Saccos. Then the second type, we call it FOSA Saccos, where these are by functions, because the FOSA Saccos also have BOSA function. So we have first type of Saccos, and that is where all Saccos begin. They begin as BOSA Saccos, that is back office activities Saccos, and their function is limited to one business, that is non-withdrawable deposit taking function, which means that all deposits, all savings accounts that are operated by the BOSA Saccos are non-withdrawable, non-transferable, unless that member is ceasing from membership or withdrawing from membership. However, many Saccos, by virtue of their limited liability status, they have found themselves offering deposits or savings accounts which kinda provide for withdrawal. In such a case, what SASRA does is that if that Sacco has not been elevated to a withdrawable deposit taking, then all their saving accounts will be structured in such a way that they have limited withdrawals. A good example is a junior account or a golden account or accounts structured to serve for savings for minors. If that account is domiciled in a BOSA Sacco, an unwithdrawable deposit taking Sacco, it means that there will be limited access by the depositor or member to access the amounts that sit in that account. But if that account is domiciled in a FOSA or a withdrawable deposit taking Sacco, it will be more accessible to the depositor or the member than the one domiciled in BOSA, because by law, savings platform offered by BOSA Saccos are supposed to be limited in withdrawal as compared to the FOSA Saccos. By function, BOSA Saccos will also be characterized by their nature of disbursement when it comes to lending. Remember, the principal activity, as we have highlighted when it comes to Saccos, is financial in nature. They mobilize funds or savings from their members and offer loans against such savings as the security. In terms of disbursement, when it comes to BOSA Saccos, these are Saccos that do not operate saving and loaning as the quasi-function of a bank. They do not operate banking halls. This Sacco on disbursement will draw a check to the member for the member to access the money through their bank, the Sacco bank, mostly the cooperative bank. But when a Sacco is elevated to operate a banking hall or a bank, then that member is able to access, or the loan to that member will be disbursed over the counter. And the member will also have the choice on whether to access the money through a check from the same Sacco. And those are the Saccos also that are operating STAs, the coupling cards. How is the organizational structure of Saccos? Sacco organization structure, in terms of hierarchy, from the top, we have the AGM, which is the organ that represents the members. In some Saccos, by virtue of their size, the AGMs are structured to be attended by representatives of member units who are called delegates. And that's where we have delegate AGMs. A delegate is a member representing a unit of other members who is elected to represent those members in the AGM and to the Sacco. While smaller Saccos will organize, all members will have equal right and access to their AGMs. Then from the AGM elects individual members to sit in the Sacco boards. So the boards in a Sacco, by virtue of the principle of member-owned and member-controlled, and that the principle of democracy, each member has equal voting rights. And during the AGM, by exercise of their votes, members do elect individual members to run the Sacco in terms of policy in the board. So that becomes the second organ in hierarchy from the AGM. Then the board elects or appoints, recruits a professional, that is a CEO, who leads a team of management staff in running the daily affairs of the society. But right at the same level of the board, or what we are calling the board, the Sacco boards are divided into two. And because of sibling rivalry of the two groups, in some Saccos you'll hear them talk over a main board and a minor board. But in law, the board, which is supposed to be comprised of 12 members, is split into two, where we will have 9 members forming a central management committee, which is tasked with the daily functions of the Sacco. And on the other side, you'll have another team of 3 officials or directors referred to as the supervisory committee, which is tasked with the duty of ensuring both the members' interest and the interest of the Sacco are protected at all times. So in essence, the supervisory committee checks to ensure that the policies and resolutions of the board and those of the AGMs are properly implemented by the staff. And also that the interests of the Sacco and the member are taken care of holistically. So in terms of control, in that hierarchy, we'll have the AGM, then the Central Management Committee, the Supervisory Committee, then the CEO, who leads the staff. On top of that, because Saccos do not operate in a vacuum, we will still have the continuous supervision by the Commissioner of Cooperative Development with respect to the provisions of Cooperative Societies Act, and we shall have SASRA offering prudential supervision for the FOSA, or the withdrawable deposit taking Saccos. And on top of that, all Saccos do have an external auditor for assurance purposes. And at that point, if you are Sacco, you are still being audited by an individual from the office of the Commissioner of Cooperatives. Auditors are supposed to be approved by the Commissioner's office. They need to have that approval by the Commissioner's office in order to offer audit services to Saccos. But one sign that your Sacco might not be doing too well is if it cannot source an independent external auditor. Independence in this case that an auditor from your immediate supervisor may can easily get quickly compromised. That is out of experience. World over, all Saccos, and remember we have said that in other jurisdictions, by virtue of the business model and the financial services that are offered by Saccos, they are referred to as credit unions. But locally, we call them Saccos. But global, there's a global standard, or we have global beliefs in all Saccos and credit unions. And that forms the core values world over by all Saccos and the Sacco principles. We have 7 core values and 7 principles, but at some cases, depending on the Sacco bylaws, these may be adjusted to 5, others will have consolidated to 6. But in the same, these are the core values. Believe, number 1 is self-reliance. 2, self-help. Number 3, self-responsibility. Number 4 is equality. Number 5 is equity. Number 6 is accountability. And number 7 is solidarity. Those are the 7 core values exercised by all Saccos and credit union. Then we have the 7 principles of cooperatives. Number 1, voluntary and open membership. Number 2, democratic member control. Number 3, member economic participation. Number 4, autonomy and independence. Number 5, education, training and information. Number 6, cooperation among cooperators. And number 7 is concern for the community. At that point, remember, for accounting purposes and returns, all limited liability companies are status enjoyed by Saccos are supposed to account for their CSR activities. That is, also the social community social responsibility functions. And that is why in every year before the annual Sacco conferences, each Sacco is given a day to exercise or to show that community concern, which refers to at least giving back to the community. Then more important, at that level, we will look at the Sacco bylaws, where Sacco bylaws, these are the specific rules, regulations, or laws crafted to govern the internal management, the internal affairs of the Sacco, the relationship between the Sacco itself and the members and among the members. And of very important concern are the following. Number 1 is joining, where that is a bylaw that will govern the fees that you are required, the documentation for joining. Then we have number 2, Sacco funds. That is a provision on the primary sources of funds for our Sacco, and in most cases they will include member share capital, issued share capital, member deposits, grants and donations, disclosed reserves, and retained earnings, where in future those will be divided into 3. We'll have the core capital, institutional capital, and the member deposits. We have another element that is very important when it comes to the bylaws, and that is contributions. And contribution, we are referring to the member deposits. And in this case, for contribution, the BOSA element, or the non-withdrawable deposit provision, the minimum amounts, and how they are treated shall be provided for in the bylaw. The other savings accounts will be provided on a product basis. But remember, for any Sacco to come to existence, every member must acquire minimum share capital. Every member must put in minimum deposits periodically. And every member will have to put in specified amounts to the benevolent fund. Those 3 form the BOSA function. Any other saving account, any other account lies under withdrawable savings, and it's a FOSA function, only available to the withdrawable deposit taking Saccos under SASRA. Number 4 is loaning. And for loaning, that provision will provide for eligibility or qualification for Sacco loans, the appraisal process, security or guarantee for the loans, disbursement, repayment, and delinquency management. Therefore, that is a very crucial provision for every member, and that is one of the primary reasons why the member must have a copy of the bylaws. And it is in law, it is provided for. Even if for a fee, every member is entitled and should be provided for with a copy of the Sacco bylaws. Then we have withdrawal and cessation of membership. And that is another element that every member must get acquainted with. It's your voluntary withdrawal or the automatic cessation of membership. Under what circumstances can you lose your membership as a member? Then we have dispute resolutions mechanism. The bylaws will provide the primary or first level or means of dispute resolution between a member and the Sacco as per the bylaw. And in any event where the member is not satisfied, it will also provide for escalation purpose. And in law, once a member is dissatisfied by a dispute, how a dispute was resolved between him and the Sacco, then in law the member is required or provided for to file a case with the tribunal, the cooperative tribunal that sits at the 11th floor Kenyari Plaza in Nairobi. The other one is compliance. And with compliance, this is another critical area or a very important section that every member needs to be fast with, because non-compliance, any element of non-compliance is provided for by the bylaws, and the Cooperative Societies Act together with the Sacco Societies Act is an indicator of poor performance and could be a red flag when it comes to sustainability of that society. Very important. And one is on notice. How AGMs and other meeting notice should be provided for. And the law provides especially for a 15-day notice period before, those are clear days, before a meeting is held. There is a question on how the final accounts, copies of the final records that are documentations that will be required for those meetings and how they should be provided. The law provided they should be pinned in the Sacco notice boards. Those are things that one should check. If they are not being provided for as per the law and your bylaws, it's a red flag. It's one of the many factors that you should look into, because it is said a good dancer knows when to leave the stage. A good investor knows how to mitigate risk. You should know when to jump off ship. And some of the red flags are provided for in compliance requirements and whether they are being adhered to. Another one is on financial period, or specifically the determination, the periodicity concept. When does the financial period of your Sacco end? Because that ending, or when it ends, defines the legal or legally when your AGM should be held. Because the law expressly provides that a Sacco AGM shall be organized and convened not more than 120 days from the close of the Sacco financial period. And that means you must well know when your financial period ends. Then from that time, 120 days, if you divide by 30 days in every month, that means not more than 4 months from when your financial period expires. It means that if you close your financial period by December, your AGM must be anywhere in between January to April. If your Sacco is holding AGMs outside the 120 days, and it becomes a habit, it's a red flag. It's a red flag. It's a measure. Why are most people complaining, oh, our Sacco went under with our money? You did not observe the red flags, and if you did, you never took the right action on time. Don't ask me where the supervisors were at that time. Another provision is on the audited accounts of the Sacco, because the law provides that if the board does not complete their audit in time, and consequently, for that reason, they don't table the audited accounts for that Sacco during the AGM, the law prescribes a punishment. And the immediate one is that the law is very clear. If there is no reason, a good, acceptable reason, the entire board should retire the following AGM and a new organ, a new board put in place. But does that happen quite often? Who is this person who is supposed to determine whether the reason given for not providing or tabling the books is good enough? A question for another day. Give me that answer in your comment section. Why most institutions, one primary purpose of the AGM is tabling of the audited accounts. And for that reason, many Saccos have pushed or not held their AGMs during the right time on argument or on reasons that their books of accounts were not ready. Is that really a valid reason? That you did not hold an AGM because your audited accounts, your books were not ready? The law is very clear. It is expressly provided that because of the strictest sense and the other business that is supposed to be conducted and executed during the AGM, the law provides that if the only reason why the AGM was not to be held was because their audited accounts were not ready, then let the AGM be held and those books can be tabled in a subsequent AGM, and the same, then that board should cease and a new one elected to continue overseeing the business of the Sacco. The other part is on special AGMs. But special AGM is AGM, whether it's an annual general meeting or it's a special AGM. That special AGM seems to appear as the only AGM or compliance requirement that is observed by all Saccos. But if your Sacco observes the special AGM alone, I have this one for you. The law provides that every Sacco, being a public institution, must table a budget, an estimate of the income and expenditures for approval by the AGM 3 months before the expiry of the current or the end of the current financial period. A tabling of those budgets in order for the members to give approval to the directors to go and spend their money. Why is it that your AGM gives you a special AGM to approve the budget on time, but it never gives your AGMs on time and other required actions compliance? They want to use your money. They can't use your money without that requirement. And even the cooperative officers supervising them locally knows that. Why should we approve a budget for you to spend if you are not accountable to us, because the AGM, where you are tabling the audited accounts, you are exercising your duty of accountability to the members. You are a steward. You are managing resources of other people. And for that reason, you are supposed to be accountable to us as members. But on the reverse, you obediently and religiously make sure we approve the budget, so that even if you squander our money, even if the board squanders the Sacco money, the greatest defense will be that the members approved the budget. The members approved the budget. That one is for the look. That is on compliance, and those are the bylaws. So categorically, we have identified 2 levels of business. We have the business of non-withdrawable deposit taking, and we have the second business of withdrawable deposit taking. Those 2 define the 2 types of Saccos that we have. We have the BOSA Saccos that operate only one level of business, and that is non-withdrawable deposit takings. And we have another type of Saccos that operate the 2 levels of business, that is the non-withdrawable deposit taking and withdrawable deposit takings. That is very important. And this information is very important so that you don't get frustrated, as many of us argue they are out of Saccos. The following is an understanding, or what we need to understand about our Sacco share capital.